Hello everyone, welcome to episode 3 of Fairy Cakes with William French Jr., and that's me. In 2010, I had the pleasure of traveling to Los Angeles to interview my fourth cousin, actress Denise Crosby. We are related to her grandmother, Dixie Lee Crosby. I had met Denise a few years before at a convention in San Francisco. Now, what you are about to hear is the audio of this interview. It was meant to be a video, and we had 3 cameras. The camera's frame rates didn't sync up, and that is why this interview has been sitting on a hard drive for 11 years. Enjoy.
To get you up.
Oh God, I would love to.
Our associate director was thinking about coming, but he wasn't able to make it.
Oh shoot,
But we
okay.
actually have students down, they flew today, that are doing a shoot with Glee.
Oh,
The cast of Glee, they're spending the weekend doing photo shoots.
Oh, very cool.
So that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you'd like to just introduce yourself and...
Okay. To you?
To me, yeah, this is a what this is a celebrity profile.
Okay.
And so it's not like a Barbara Walters interview, but it's about you. So it's
Okay.
more of you just talking, and
All right.
then in the editing, I have to edit down to 3 minutes.
Okay.
But it's going to be
Okay.
longer.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
The
Okay.
longer one's going to be more fun.
Okay. So, my name is Denise Crosby.
You're growing up and your birth and all that was a bit different for the time, for when you were born.
Mm-hmm.
How did that affect you?
Good question. It's certainly, I think, created a lot of obstacles, a lot of intrigue, a lot of things to really carve your identity, through. We can talk about this because I think for a long time it was so frightening to me as a child that I was really trying to negotiate within myself how, being from such a famous family, the Crosby family, as you know, this iconic grandfather of mine, how to be in the shadow of that, how to and am I living in I don't think anybody wants to live in anybody's shadow, yet he casts such a huge prolific shadow, and then to complicate it even more so, to be what was considered then an illegitimate child, which is a horrible burden for any person to bear, and I'm so glad that is not. I don't think people are using, hopefully, that term anymore, because well, of course now people choose to get married or not, and thank God, as they should. But of course, my mother was pretty radical in those days when I was born, and so then you have that coupled with coming from a really famous family. So what does that do? And it creates its own sort of set of circumstances that you grow up and you kind of have to do the kind of soul searching and introspection, hopefully, that that requires, so that you can be healthy and you're not crippled in any way by that. It can be certainly crippling and terrifying for a young kid.
How was your relationship with your father?
My relationship with my father was none. He was struggling with his own relationship with his father, Bing, and I think it just sort of trickled down with and kind of echoed his relationships with his own kids. He ended up, after I was born, he, right about the time, I think, when my mother was still pregnant with me, he ended up marrying another woman and having 2 boys, and then they divorced, and he married a third. Well, he wasn't married to my mother, but married. his technically second wife, had 2 daughters. So, you know, he was kind of, and each time he would be with another woman and have kids, he kind of left the other ones behind. So this was, you know, very much a pattern, and not just with my father, with his brothers as well, with my cousins. So, you know, you begin to see this kind of acting out of their own disconnect, you know, their own not reconciling with their mother and father. What that did to them, it begins to, you know, this is what happens, you know, if we don't deal with our stuff, you know, it's visited upon our children.
Now, your grandmother was a well-known actress, Dixie Lee Dixie Lee, and she met Bing at the Coconut Grove, which the now gone Coconut Grove.
Isn't that, I mean, you couldn't write this stuff. It's
I know,
a classic.
She got him to stop drinking, and then she started drinking. What's it been like discovering that part of the family history that isn't talked about, that a lot of people don't know about?
Well, it's so fascinating, and you know, I have you know, to thank so much for you know, giving me so much great opportunity to look into her life and get to know this beautiful woman. I mean, the last play I did, which you came to see, Orpheus Descending, I had pictures of her in my dressing room. You know, I welcomed her theatrical spirit in with me, and you know, and then my castmates enjoyed hearing about her, and you know, it keeps, because a lot of people don't know about her. You know, I mean, again, Bing was so large and so famous and so revered that, you know, people kind of forget that, you know, she in fact was a bigger star than he in the beginning. So, and I think really, you know, cut her career short for him, and you know, that's what women did, of course, in that era. Rosemary Clooney very much has a, you know, I talked to in length about that, because she had very similar kind of path with Jose Ferrer. You know, men really, you had to, it was them or nothing, you know. So it's just wonderful to be able to kind of peel away this veil of obscurity and get to know her.
When it comes to your grandfather, what of the work he's done that you've seen, what would you say is your favorite moment?
Wow. You know, I still, I mean, I love the road pictures. I just do. I mean, I think there was a very special magic that he and Bob Hope had. It's just, you know, one of those rare sort of alchemy things that go on when people, you know, get together. It's even greater than them alone. But I still, his music to me is the greatest part of him. I was listening to some. My son had to put together a family tree recently for a school project, and so he was allowed to interview just one parent, and because there's so much information about my family, you know, he interviewed me, and so it was really interesting to go back and listen to some of his music, and just how incredibly great it is. What an amazing gift he had.
Because it's such a famous family, what was it that got you into acting? That got you the acting bug?
You know, I was always sort of doing stuff as a kid. You know, I mean, one of the first things I really remember is sort of narrating the Christmas show for my elementary school. You know, and I loved it, and I felt connected. You know, and I felt I could do this, and this was me. Then I went through a period of rebellion because I really felt that, this is just assumed that I would go into this business, and oh God, I mean, it'll be, I don't want to hand it to them. It's too easy, and I'll be crucified, and how tacky is that to be the granddaughter of, and I'll always have that moniker, and screw that. I don't want anything to do with it. So I really rebelled until I sort of came to it on my own terms, and started to work with an amazing coach from USC. He was head of the drama department at USC for many years, and then was doing little small theater workshops, and I stumbled upon him through word of mouth, and it was magic. It was the real stuff. It was doing the real theater work that the actor studio kind of stuff was doing, and really it was thrilling and exciting, and I got it, and I wanted, and I never turned back from that.
In 1979, you posed for Playboy.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that affected your career?
That's a great question, because in 1979 I was at the height of that rebellion, and I kind of posed for Playboy in light of that. It was wow, how shocking, being with his Catholic upbringing, and his playing priests, and of course this was all the hypocrisy that went on with this, but with his family Christmas shows and the whole thing. Okay, so I was kind of sticking it to them in a way, and I cut all my hair off, and not only was I sticking it to my family, I was kind of sticking it to Playboy, because Playboy never put women that looked like me in the magazine. I don't know how schooled on Playboy you are, but that it's a kind of a look of a woman. I mean, there's a certain look that they like. This lots of hair and glossy lips and big boobies and the whole thing. Okay, so I went completely the opposite direction, and the photo editor, in the middle of the shoot, by the way, because I didn't like the way this photographer was capturing me. He was putting me, curling my hair and making me in little Bo Peep outfits, and and I literally walked into Vidal Sassoon on Rodeo Drive without an appointment, and I said, cut all my hair off, and they went, are you sure? And I said, yeah, like a boy's haircut. And I showed up at the photo editor's office the next day, and by chance, a photographer named Philip Dixon was in the office showing other photos, and he had just come from Paris, and he had just done a lot of fashion. He was their number one photographer. He was trying to move out of that kind of centerfold thing into more Vogue and Harper's fashion photos, and he happened to see me, and he goes, no, I love the way she looks. Let me do some test photos. And the photo editor, this woman, Marilyn Grabowski, said, oh, Hefner will never go for that. He's not going to, what the women look like in our magazine. This is the opposite of that. And Philip goes, let me just try. And what you see in Playboy were our test photos. And so I was kind of, I was just like at this height of just, my rebellion. I was rebelling against the family, rebelling against Playboy, and yet it was working. It was like working. And through Playboy, a very famous casting woman named Toni Howard called me up at home. I was still living with my parents, and got in touch with the magazine, traced me through the magazine, and called up and asked if I would come in and read for a TV movie of the week. Remember when they were doing movies of the week? And it was called Diary of a Teenage Hitchhiker. And she got me on track. So it's kind of, in a weird way, Playboy got me into acting in a certain way.
Now, you've done a lot of movies, Deep Impact, things like that. Pet Sematary, I think, is an iconic movie for Stephen
Oh.
King. What was that experience like for you working? Because there were some great people on that movie. Thinking like Fred Gwynne.
Oh God, yeah.
What was that like for you? Is there something special about that movie that you remember that?
Well, you know, I mean, first and foremost, I am a huge Stephen King fan, so I was just thrilled to be, you know, part of that, part of his, library and his family. The other great thing was that Mary Lambert directed it, and Mary and I had become friends and done a number of music videos together. She came out of that, music video director school, which many great directors have. And I was in her very first music video she ever directed with Jed Nelson. It was for the Tom Tom Club. And we just adored each other, and we subsequently made a number of music videos. We did one with Mick Jagger, we did one with Chris Isaak, we did a lot of different stuff together, and she always said, I tell you, when I can direct my movie, you're going to be in it. Now, saying that and doing that are two hugely different things, and she kept her word, and here we were in Maine, shooting this big studio movie together, and it was like we had to pinch ourselves and say, we did it. And now actually we're trying to find something else to do right now. She just directed something for Sci-Fi Channel, and so we're looking to find a script for the Sci-Fi Channel to do together.
Is there a memory of Fred Gwynne that you might have?
Oh yeah, Fred was amazing. He just embodied that role so thoroughly. And I just loved talking with him, about his career. It was fascinating. I mean, this man, he had like 2 separate careers. I mean, certainly Car 54, Where Are You, and The Munsters are these iconic television series. But after The Munsters, and he was so famous from that TV show, so much so that he couldn't get arrested once that TV series ended. I mean, and those were the days when if you were on TV, you didn't get to make films. You were kept very separate. People didn't think you could or should. And, oh, you're a TV actor, oh, you're a movie actor. And of course, now it's totally, those boundaries have dissolved, thank God. But he literally could not get arrested and went from, the biggest thing to moving back to New York and essentially doing anything he could do, small repertory theater, carrying a spear across a stage, until Coppola got him back on track with the Cotton Club, looked him up, purposely gave him that role. So he was just so genuine about it and real and not pretending not pretentious. I mean, really was very grounded in the realities of this business. Wasn't ashamed, wasn't apologetic. You do what you can. You do what and you're grateful for having the opportunities that you get. And he was grateful that he could, continue at that age to be working. And the wonderful thing about Fred was he wrote children's books and illustrated them and wrote children's books. So I have one of his children's books.
Yeah. By that time he had gotten comfortable with her in Munster and realized that, because one of the few shows where there's only, less than 65 episodes, and it's still in syndication.
It's like Star Trek,
Yeah.
the original Star Trek.
Yeah. Yeah, they say you have to have 100. Look at Star Trek,
No.
79 or whatever. Look at
Right.
Munster's Addams Family.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
Addams Family and Munster started the same week, ended the same week.
Did they really?
They did, which is very strange. But
God, I know, and you pair them together. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly,
I was
yeah.
watching them both. I loved those shows.
yeah. Of course, you were in Star Trek, and you've probably been asked a million questions about Star Trek, and so that's why I want to get to know you better. I think one question I have, I've known people that knew Gene Roddenberry, Herbert Wright, who was a writer and created the Ferengi.
Oh, yeah.
I
Of
was
course.
really good friends with his ex-wife, with his first wife.
Oh, right, yeah. What was her name?
Oh my gosh, Catherine.
Yes, I remember.
Catherine Redwood. She was an amazing.
That's
woman.
right.
Yeah.
Wasn't she an actress?
That's his second wife.
Oh, okay.
And people ended up
okay.
hating her, but
Oh,
he was doing Quester tapes before he died, and now Ron Howard. He was working with Ron Howard, and now Ron Howard and Brian, whatever his partner's
Grazer?
name is.
Yeah.
Grazer. They're continuing it.
oh, great.
Yeah, but he died of bone cancer.
That's right.
The actor,
That's
so,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
What I wanted, because there's been a lot of stuff written about Gene Roddenberry, what it was like as a person. When Star Trek Next Generation came along, he was older. He'd been through a lot of stuff with NBC and with Paramount when it came to the movies, a lot of fighting, things like that. What was he like on the set of The Next Generation?
Oh, he was a dear, a big cuddly bear. I loved him. He was. I think he was excited about the show. He was generous to us. Always had. We always had his ear, and he listened to us, and encouraged us to ask questions. That year that I was on the show, we did something that once he passed away didn't continue, which was we would, each time a new script was written, we would all gather for a lunch, for a read-through, and we would literally go page by page, and it'd say, any questions on page 1? Anybody? Page 2? Page 3? Yes. Hi. Would it be okay if I say hailing frequencies open instead of hailing frequencies open, sir? We would just, whatever you change it right there, and we would go through it page by page. We'd have deli brought in, and it was an amazing, thing. And Gene was right there, and, he could easily have just said, say the damn line the way it is, and shut up. But no, he was so not that way. And, I think he had really created an environment that he was happy in, and he felt he could be creative in. And, I think the writers, it was, it's hard to find really good writers for science fiction. It's just such a tough one. So.
You'd left The Next Generation after the first season.
Yeah.
Our associate director for our department, actually, he chokes up when he thinks about that episode. It's his favorite episode. I'm partial to Yesterday's Enterprise, but
oh, me too.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. Yeah, that's my favorite.
But he loved that episode so much. Gosh, I gotta think of a question
About that.
Without asking you the most obvious.
About
question.
that particular episode. That was a really difficult, episode to shoot, obviously. But we tried to make it, fortunately, it wasn't literally the last episode we shot, even though in order for me it was the last episode, but the script was ready before the one that aired before. So, we had another episode to go after we finished. So that was a relief because, it wasn't literally the end. I remember when I had to shoot my hologram, sort of speech, I showed up with a little black pillbox hat and veil, and the crew all wore black armbands, and, we were trying to make light of this sort of heavy duty thing, and but it was a tough episode to shoot, no doubt, but a beautifully written speech for me to do, and it was easy to memorize, just 'cause, when things are well written, when you can memorize them well, easily.
Yeah, of course, the episode before there's that final that wave.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Is there anything from that people ask you a question about the season you were on that you wish they would stop asking?
Well, yeah, I mean, the most obvious is, why did you leave? I mean, that's, and that's such a difficult, sometimes I can answer it easier than others, but I mean, it's such a creative, personal decision, for me. It was, so anyway, without going into the whole spiel about that, it's inevitable they're going to ask that, because it's just like nobody leaves a TV series. I mean, why do you do that? But people, different. Everybody's operating from a different place, and some wrestle with creativity differently than others,
But of course, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, just because you're on a show is to some maybe the end all be all, and to some not.
And of course, questions about you and Data.
Is fully functional.
Fully functional.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, and yes, I he is 3 speeds. I always say he's 3 speeds. Regular wearing blender.
And they did a brilliant job bringing you back in yesterday's Enterprise.
Unbelievable,
you and
wasn't
Christopher
it?
McDonald, and and Whoopi Goldberg, which I thought
Unbelievable.
I've shown that a few times at school because it is I think that's one of the best episodes of the series.
No doubt.
And I mean, for me, after that, some of the best episodes I think are the ones where you played your daughter, and and then the final episode, I think.
Yeah.
For me, because you were in Unification.
Yeah.
Too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that was a surprise.
Yeah, you see me just at the end
What
in the
was
shadow. And working
the
with
reaction?
Nimoy.
Yeah. The people that didn't know you were doing that, what was the reaction of that?
Oh God, the fans were flipped out. They couldn't believe. They went, what? Because they heard my voice only in the first part, and they recognized it, and they thought, you've got to be kidding me. How is that going to be? And I love that. It's exactly what they planned. What they wanted to happen. The producers. So that was cool. And yeah, I thought it was kind of full of surprises that way. I mean, I never thought I would come back. And then after yesterday's Enterprise, I never thought I would come back. So it was continually surprising, and I think really, I mean, who can say they've played their own daughter in a TV show? I mean, I don't know. I may be the only one. Got to have something, right?
Now, you've gone on to do a lot of theater work. What has it been like post Star Trek, getting into that?
Well, I mean, for me, it was great because I was doing a play actually when I got the series Star Trek. So I was doing a really, long-running play here in LA called Tamara, which was amazing production. You followed the actors room to room. You followed them in this big villa, and it was extraordinary. So theater for me is I just, my passion. I think had I not been born here, I probably would have gone straight to New York, to pursue acting. But I started to work here, and it's just my home. So, although theater is there's pretty thriving here in LA now, and I am about to become a member of the theater company that Gates McFadden is running. So here it will connect us again. She's the artistic director of Ensemble Studio Theater on the West Coast, which has a long history in New York. So it's a great space. I was just over there last week. So and then my acting teacher, Larry Moss, has been so great because he's put me in the last couple of things he's directed. So it was wonderful to work with him as a director and as a teacher. It's really fun.
You went on to produce Trekkies and Trekkies 2. For you, what was the difference between seeing producers and working with them as an actress versus actually being the producer and having to control and be involved in all of the business aspects and creative aspects?
It was just a wonderful new hat to wear, and I really enjoyed it. I learned so much. I mean, you can imagine. You know, as an actor, you have just just a vague kind of understanding, really, of what producers are doing, and but then you're in the throes of it, and everything from calling up, getting this and that, to just holding the film cans and showing up at film festivals, and it just was great, and God, I hope to do much more of it, as I go on. And it gave me a whole different sort of respect, I think, for what producers do as well when I'm acting.
Yeah, I'm hoping to work with you once I get my projects that I'm working on. I have a couple TV pilots we're doing
Great.
right now. We shot one that Faith was in, but I hate it. It's it's called Diva Court, an outrageously gay judge,
Oh, how
and it's like a Judge Judy, Richard Simmons, with some Jerry Springer thrown in,
oh my God.
and it wasn't fun. Our judge just wasn't fun.
Oh,
He's an old friend of
no.
mine, but he was too bitchy.
Oh no.
So I'm editing it, and it's like couldn't finish it, and it's like I'm wondering why can't I finish this, and I realized I hate it.
Okay, there you
So
go.
we're reshooting, and I'm like, start over.
Oh,
Start
good.
fresh.
Okay.
But once we do that, the documentary series I want to do, I'd love to someday, when I'm ready for it, meet with you and
Absolutely.
start working on it, because I think that'd really be a lot of fun for all of us to work together and try
Oh,
to.
God,
figure it
yeah.
out,
Yeah.
Let's see. Of your other film roles, which one was the most fun? And which one was the most interesting?
God. Well, I mean, Deep Impact was a great film to be part of, certainly, because it was this extraordinary big piece of work, and I really enjoyed working with Mimi Leader, so rare for women directors, and I've worked with a couple of them. There was a film I did that I really loved called Miracle Mile, which was really an interesting script, and certainly stands out in my mind as one that I really liked working on. Yeah, I would say those two of film roles. I did this series called Key West. I don't know if you.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it was. We only did 13 of them down in Key West on Fox. It was on Fox, but it was written by a guy, a playwright, who was this man David Beard. It was created by him, and that was a fantastic ensemble piece, and really didn't get its fair shot. It was kind of ahead of its time. But I played the mayor of Key West, so that was great fun. And being Key West is unique. I don't know if you've ever been down there, but oh my God, it's such a riot.
I'd love to do something like it. I'm the archivist now for our department, and we're doing TV.
Wow.
Barry TV right now, because that's the people we have access to. We're actually going to the Paley Center
Oh, great.
after this.
Oh, great.
And I have someone I know at UCLA, so we're going to be accessing theirs. They're going to be accessing ours.
Good.
And we want to build other TV stuff. Since I'm really in the history of television, I'd love to get like Key West and things, pilots people have done.
Great. Oh,
So I'm trying to
great.
find people that have tapes of pilots and stuff that some people are never going to see again.
No.
That needs to be saved and
Yeah.
eventually work with networks, because we have a lot of contact with CBS and
Great.
things like that.
Yeah,
so that's going to be exciting.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just, there's a need for that, because people are discovering stuff all the time in basements, and wine cellars, and all kinds of stuff shows up.
And shows like Star Trek only survived because of reruns. If it hadn't gone into syndication, it wouldn't have survived. They would have lost almost all of the episodes if you think about it.
Yeah.
60s, they threw everything away.
Yeah.
Now how?
Check I just want to check
Oh,
the
it's
time.
157.
157. Good. Okay. Good.
Yeah, I keep looking.
Yeah.
Now you have a son.
Yes.
How has your being well known and famous, how has that affected him and your relationship with him?
That's a really good question. you know, I have always been really sensitive to how how the how I'm perceived, you know, in that world, or that, you know, and that's what I do for a living. You know, this is how I'm creative, and this is how, you know, what I do as a job. For instance, like I certainly would. I've never sat him down and said, you know, let's watch Mommy. You know, let's see. I'm going to show you everything that Mommy's done. You know, he has sort of organically stumbled upon it. You know. And that's been good. That's been really healthy. You know, sometimes I've heard him like tell a friend or something, like, my mom was on Star Trek, you know? And the friend goes, huh? Like, what? And, you know, when I remember once a little boy came over and he said, Denise, you're an actress, right? You were on TV. And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, how come you don't live in a mansion? I said, what do you mean, man? This is a mansion. What are you talking about? So, you know, it's funny, the kids, the perception of things. But I think you owe it to them to have not rob them of, you know, who they are and their chance to grow up and be who they are, that they're not, you know, feeling like my parent is so enormous and big and loved by everyone. Hello, me, how about me? You know, I mean, that's a tricky one. I remember I have these little action figures, and I thought, you know, my God, I mean, I don't want, I one time went in my son's room, and he had Mommy, you know, up on his like dresser, and I thought, it's gonna be so weird, like mommy, or, you know, breaking it like two or something, you know. And I thought, well, let's hold off on that one, you know. So he's kind of stumbled upon and slowly begun to, you know, see a couple little things. He's come to a couple sets, like he came to Orpheus, you know, which I thought was interesting because I thought, you know, that's a pretty sophisticated play. But then he gets to go backstage, he gets to meet the other actors, he gets to be part of it, you know, and it's not this like very foreboding, you know, it's just kind of thing that's over there.
It's an I have an interesting question. If, let's say, Paramount contacted J.J. Abrams and said, do a TV show, a Star Trek show, we're going to give it to you, what type of show do you think people would want to watch? And what kind of show would interest you?
Wow, I mean, J.J. Abrams is, you know, it's funny you mentioned J.J. Abrams because our kids played in Little League together this last season. And so I introduced myself to him, and he's a huge fan of Trekkies. Loves the Trekkie. And we had this great conversation, and he was telling me they're just getting, the writers are just hashing around some ideas right now for the new movie. And he said, I'd love for you to be in it. You know, so that and I said, great, that would be really cool. I'm sure the fans would love that. And so, I mean, he is really, I think, just invigorated the franchise, thank God. But I think anything he would do, some kind of like, just, I think he's just so good at action that, you know, I would love to play like this, you know, sort of like hit woman or spy or something with him. Yeah, that would be the way to go, you know, kind of like Honey West or something, you know. I remember once Quentin Tarantino had this idea that he wanted to, in Pulp Fiction, he was originally writing something for me to do where I was going to be remember Uma Thurman puts in that tape of her supposed series that she did for Travolta watch. I think it was called like the 5 Force Foxes or Force 5 Foxes or something. It was like a, Charlie's Angel type show she had been on in the movie. And so Quentin was going to have me be the, like, instructor to these foxes. So I was going to be like the foxy fox, And it didn't make Quentin literally called me in my apartment in West Hollywood and said, I've just written a scene for you. And I guess when in the rewrites of Pulp Fiction, they weren't gonna. He was originally gonna actually shoot a segment of the TV show, but it didn't go in there. So I mean, that kind of thing would be fun to do.
Yeah, it'd be
that kind of series.
With what he did with Star Trek, it'd be so different to take that style.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be so different than anything's ever been on TV before.
Yeah.
With the lens flares and the action. And,
yeah.
I mean, it would be, because I do think that Paramount should just say, here,
do whatever.
throw it at them and say, do whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, I think
you're going to make us a lot of money. We've already made billions off this. You
Yeah.
can't hurt it.
Right. Right.
After Enterprise.
Yeah. Well, let's see what he comes up with.
Yeah.
They're going to do another one, so we'll see. We'll see.
It'll be fun. For people that want to get into acting or into the industry, but live with life challenges.
Mm-hmm.
For myself, I actually have high functioning autism.
Wow.
Yeah, and I have
you've got
Tourette syndrome, which if you see my hands, I'm holding my hands because they're twitching a little bit.
Huh. You would
Yeah.
never know.
And,
I mean, that's
yeah.
amazing.
And it's,
What
I know
an
last
inspiration
week
you
was
are,
really
though.
bad, but now I'm doing a
God,
lot of
what an-
warm baths. Help calm me down. And
Yeah.
I think, to me, you're also an inspiration because your family hasn't, the things with Bing Crosby and all that, it hasn't, gotten your way because by the time you entered the industry and all that, your uncle had written a book, an extremely controversial book, and went on, all the family problems, suicides,
Right.
things like that. What advice would you give someone who's struggling with adversity in their life, something really difficult, but they want to get into the industry, no matter where it is, whether it's in LA or San Francisco or New York or whatever? What advice would you give them to help just to keep them going, and what can they do to just keep within themselves that they can do it and keep going?
The adversities that we have, that we face, are the things that can become the most compelling. They're the things that make us unique, and we all have this unique property and this unique gift to give. So the only thing that stands in your way is yourself and what the limitations you put on yourself. One of the most amazing guys I know is this guy named Baxter. He lost one of his arms pretty young. He was a young boy, and it was not from an accident. I think it was from sort of some disease. They had to amputate right above the elbow. The guy is a champion kickboxer. Champion. I mean, kicks everyone's ass. You see him in the gym. He trains, teaches at the Y, competes all over the world in these championships, plays tennis, plays ice hockey. If you say to him, how do you play ice hockey with one arm? He will take it. That is encouragement for him. That's fuel for him to say, oh no, you're not going to tell me that I can't do this, because I'm not going to. There are no limits. There are no limits. Just had a baby, married this beautiful woman. It is truly an inspiration. And here was my situation in my life. Now, I mean, you have two stories to tell. Do I write the good story, Or do I, become a victim of the bad story? We're writing our own story. And that's your choice. And that starts from within. And there's nothing anybody can tell you that's going to, and we've all heard the no. It's so easy to say no. It's so much easier to say no. That's why in Hollywood there's so many no's. Because it relieves everyone from, any commitment, any putting themselves on the line, risking any risk. But you have to be willing, to take chances. You have to be willing to risk. You have to be able to, be vulnerable and put everything you've got on the line. Because what kind of life, what are you living? You're going to be safe in your little contained box, and nobody can live that way, and that's not a life one should live. We're here to matter, and each and every one of us is unlike. I mean, it's a cliche, but there's no one like you. There's no one like me.
I didn't want to stay. I wanted to stay away from Star Trek questions, but here, one popped into my head, and it's kind of a bizarre question. If Tasha met her daughter, and they were in a fight to the death, do you think Tasha would have the guts to kick her daughter's ass?
Wow. I mean, there's no doubt that Tasha would have the guts to do it. And I think she would go that route only if that was the only lesson, if that was the only way she could do it. I mean, I think the interesting thing about Tasha Yar was that, she came from this really scrappy, tough, failed Earth colony, and this had to fight to survive, and was orphaned and everything. So I think for her to be that kind of physical was always met with great resistance. She didn't want to have to do that. That's why, there's that one episode as a Code of Honor where she's fighting with this claw, and she's meant to be in this neon cage with and this was how the ruler of the planet was going to, either one of us was going to live, and that was going to be his wife, and we had to, kind of placate him for a little bit, but we were going to beam me out as soon as that was going to happen. I think she resists that. It's always about negotiating, and about talking, and about, trying to resolve conflicts through, peaceable ways, So, but, yeah, she would have the guts. In a word, yeah, she would have the guts.
Because you were in the final episode of Next Generation, was there anything physical that you got to keep? That you got to bring home with you, or is there anything that you would want to have if it was around?
It would have been fun to I think have my uniform, but no, when it's funny, when Rick Berman, the producer of Next Gen, came to the set to say goodbye, and they had a cake for me, and first thing he did was rip my communicator off. It was like, he goes, "You won't be needing that anymore." It's like such a psychological gesture. It was so interesting. Because there was no way you could tell my communicator from, 800 others. But it was just his. You remember that old Chuck Connors TV series Branded? This was way before, Remember they went Branded, they ripped off his, star, or his badge when they threw him out. It was like, what are you doing? Isn't that interesting?
It's part of our archive. We have
Branded.
12 tapes,
very
4
cool.
episodes tape. Yeah.
Wow, cool. I love that. I loved that show as a kid.
Yeah, I'm sure they've sold your uniforms.
Oh,
they're
God.
out there. So
Yeah,
they
they're
sold
probably,
everything.
yeah.
They're making a lot of money.
Christie's or whatever, that huge auction they had.
They're keeping some things, selling others. Not the worst idea. They're actually doing it well, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, what are they going to do? They had just, warehouses of this stuff.
Exactly. If they need something, they could always get it back.
Yeah, buy it back. Paramount.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's all I can think of.
Good.
I think this was a great interview. I had a lot of fun.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. Me too. Yeah.
And I tried not to focus on Star Trek, even though we kind of went there.
But what do you? I mean,
It's an important part of your life.
It's the elephant in the room,
Yeah.
If we don't talk
exactly.
about it, then you're going, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You better address it. But yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't dwell on.
Yeah.
You covered all the bases.
And when I heard that Rick Berman was let go from Paramount after Enterprise failed, I was like,
The luckiest man in show business is all I can say. The luckiest man in show business. God, don't put this in the interview.
No.
Okay, but I mean, between you and me.
Can I ask a question?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
We were actually talking about this because we were speculating on what the answer might be. But I was just wondering what your craziest or scariest fan encounter has been, because I know that the Star Trek fans can be really, really passionate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, as all of fandom, always has that element to it. My favorite was the first year when I was on the show, and I'd only done maybe 1 or 2 conventions. I really was new to this, world. I was somewhere in the Midwest. I can't remember which city, but a woman came to me and she said, "I have to introduce you to, let's say, John. He is your biggest fan. He has your character Tasha Yar tattooed on him." And I went, "Wow, okay, sure, I'll meet John." So she takes me with a couple of other people, and we go down into like this hotel in the back, underneath in the basement, through the kitchen, and here comes this very shy, kind of gangly guy, young guy. "John, here's Denise." And he goes, "We're just, hi, nice to meet you." And she goes, show Denise your tattoo." He takes off his shirt, and my entire face is tattooed on his back, covering his entire, from his nape to his butt crack. And I went, it was like my headshot of Tasha Yar. And I went, "Oh my God." I said, I hope your girlfriend is okay with that. I was just like, I didn't know if I should run or hug the guy. I mean, I was like blown away. That's my favorite.
Amazing. That's quite a story. That's quite a fan.
And that's forever.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The guy that's on Mad Men, John
Ham?
Hamm, he was on Regis and Kelly. And Regis said, "Oh, I want you to come take a photo. Come to my house," because Regis lives across the street. And so John Hamm was talking about this. So he brings John Hamm up, gets into the elevator, goes up to the apartment, and says, "Wait right here." Regis goes inside, comes back, opens the door with one of those little pointing click cameras, took his photo, then closed the door. And left John Hamm standing in the hallway. Didn't invite him in.
Bizarre.
Yeah, Regis is a bit of a bizarre person.
He's out there. It's totally out there.
When he gets out of the cab, he literally says, "Regis is here." That's like his shtick.
Oh
When he
my
gets out of a car,
God.
goes into a restaurant, yeah.
Oh my
But he's
God.
been around forever.
All right,
But yeah.
I have a woman coming at 2:30. What, I don't want to.
It's 2:16. So.
Oh, great.
Can
So
I
that
get
gives you
one
enough.
picture with,
Yes,
and
of
then
course.
Well, I got
Yes.
a picture.
Okay.
This was a great I don't have to
everything done?
We
I
did.
think so, honey.
Thank you so much.
Let's do on this one.
Okay.
Awesome. There.
All
Thank you so
right.
much.
You got it,
That
sweetie.
was a great interview. I was very
Thank you guys for
Glad-
coming. And you're staying for the couple days down
No,
here?
we're going back. We're flying back up tonight.
Wow.
We're just
Yeah.
going to Paley.
You're going to Paley?
Going
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a little school week. We still have school.
So you're able to do
I
a
don't have
couple
school. I have
things.
hard to have work to do.
You guys want some water? Something to drink? Yeah?
Water would be nice.
Have you been to the Paley Center by any chance?
No, I have not. Sorry to say.
Yeah, well, this is our first time too.
I know. It's like,
And I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm glad that I'm able to bring it to you. It's been sitting And it's been sitting on a hard drive for almost 11 years now. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and consider joining my Patreon. Love ya.